And look, we've been talking about nuclear waste in particular for some time now. We'll keep talking about it probably at least for the rest of this year. And maybe it'll be one of the hot topics that we always talk about in South Australia, especially if one of the nuclear waste repositories goes ahead. Now, today I just want to talk about the low to intermediate level repository. There's a couple slated for Kimba, one for Hawker. And the reason I want to talk about it is because there's been a little bit of talk over the last couple of weeks, both on this program, other programs, and in some of the News Corp papers. Now, initially there was a story out about a month ago where it seemed that the current storage facility at Lucas Heights, where they create isotopes for medical and research purposes, it was running out of space. And we're running out of space nationwide. So if we wanted to continue to create those isotopes, whilst there is an expansion happening at that facility over the next couple of years, there needs to be a nuclear waste repository. That was the first story that came out. Then there was a couple of follow-up stories in News Corp papers from various groups saying that actually, no, we don't need nuclear facilities to create these isotopes at all. There are other options. There are other trials going on in places like Canada where they can create these things in a completely anti-nuclear environment. Well, I wanted to find out a bit more. I did some calls, did some research, but now there's an interesting article out from Dr. Jeff Curry. He's an associate professor in medical radiation science at Charles Sturt University, and he joins us now. Good morning, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Curry, what's this debate all about? Can you break it down to just the most basic point? How do we start?
I think the basic point is that we have both legacy waste and an ongoing production of waste that's essentially for the health and well-being of every Australian. And that requires, an international best practice solution of disposal of the low-level waste. And eventually just a solution down the track for a disposal of intermediate level waste. Along the way, we've sort of got it mixed up with the whole nuclear debate. So a lot of the information that has come out is more pressed saying we want to actually shut down Lucas Heights. And it's politically driven towards, the anti-nuclear debate rather than actually focusing on the actual need for the waste solution. And that needs there independently of whether ANSTO closed today or continued to practice, is that we'd still have the need for a disposal solution.
Because there's been a couple of types of people we've been talking about. Either there's people from the community who have issues with this kind of facility in their community, which is a totally different argument to the anti-nuclear the nuclear opponents in general who, right across the country. I guess their issue is a lot like, say, opponents of live cattle. They don't want to see any meat production at all. They don't want to see any nuclear production at all. Is it a fair call to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it'd be really good to focus on what the community needs are and stop distracting the debate that is built around what those communities need and how they feel about the project with some other political agenda. So, it's a distraction. And it's not a debate about whether we need ANSTO or don't need ANSTO. And people have even pulled in nuclear power. Someone was talking about 50 power reactors in a previous report. Well, we don't have power reactors in Australia. We don't have high-level waste, and that's just all noise that's distracting people from the real debate.
Of course, there is that ongoing debate separately in South Australia, which is the Royal Commission, but we leave that aside because it is a different issue than we're talking about right now. Now, there's been some debate as to whether or not we need nuclear isotopes in medicine at all. You disagree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that even a conservative estimate would say that, 1 in 2 Australians need nuclear medicine, either diagnosis or therapy during their lifetime. Obviously, that's a bit of an average, but when you actually look at the statistics, over a period of a person's life, is that it's more like, one person on average will have 2 nuclear medicine procedures in their life. And the reality is that it changes lifestyle, it changes quality of life, and it changes outcomes and increases the cure rate of many different diseases. Oncology, cardiovascular disease, skeletal diseases, every organ system in the body, a lot of the neurodegenerative diseases. Nuclear medicine plays this critical role. And it's not replaceable. So there's other tests that we can do. You can play with MRI and CT and all those, and they have very, very important niche roles in those same organ systems. But the reality is nothing does what nuclear medicine can do.
There's some talk about things, what they're called cyclotrons. What are cyclotrons, and why do you think they're not a solution to replace nuclear isotopes?
I guess that in the debate, essentially a cyclotron is something that accelerates a particle and bombards it into a target, and it creates a new nuclide. And so you can use those, and we currently do. ANSTO has 3 cyclotrons that it operates, and we have a number of cyclotrons across Australia that produce nuclear medicine isotopes already. But there's very specific isotopes for different purposes. So what you can actually produce in a cyclotron, we already do very, very well, but they're very specific products. The main product we use in nuclear medicine, not only in Australia but across the world, 75% of studies are done with technetium-99m. So that's a very specific radionuclide. And it's best produced via reactors. The reactor produces its parent, which is called molybdenum, and then we package it up in a beautiful little generator that means that you've got a weekly supply on site for on-call, delivered into even the remote areas of Australia.
And I guess... Yeah, go on, sorry.
So in a cyclotron, we've been able to produce technetium in a cyclotron since 1970. It just doesn't do it very well, and it does it directly. So with a short half-life, you can't deliver it out into remote Australia. You've got to have an on-site cyclotron. The efficiency of it is very low, and the quality is not as good as through the generator because you get those radiochemical impurities. So there's a number of limitations, and the idea that we have cyclotrons already so we can just do it, that doesn't actually match up with the science. You've got to have specific types of cyclotrons. It becomes a lot more expensive, and we need to remember that the cyclotrons we currently have are already doing their own job of producing isotopes that can't be produced in a reactor. And
it's a funny one to sort of talk about by itself, because of course this is coming from a background debate of whether or not we need nuclear isotopes in medicine, which of course you say we do, whether or not we can create them in cyclotrons, which you say we for the most part can't, not what we need. And what that leads to is the fact that we do or don't need a nuclear waste repository. Now, I wanted to ask you, ANSTO is expanding the Lucas Heights storage facility. We had a call earlier today, which the question was posed: why couldn't that continue to be expanded, and the nuclear National Nuclear Waste Repository be in Lucas Heights itself? Do you see any reason why that was not floated?
Yeah, there's some very good reasons for that. In actual fact, for 60 years, that's exactly what's occurred, is that what's being produced has been stored at Lucas Heights. But this isn't something that's being driven by ANSTO or the government. ARPANSA is the independent nuclear regulator in this country,
yep.
And it's ARPANSA have identified that that's not actually an appropriate solution. You shouldn't be storing your waste at the same place as you have your production. And the best that ANSTO could provide would be a storage solution. It's not a disposal solution, which is what international best practice is. So, it's actually very important. I mean, it's no different. You don't keep all of your waste from your preparation of meals in your kitchen. You dispose of it, temporarily in the garbage bin, and then you actually send it out to landfill. It's silly to actually keep all that waste right where you do your cooking. So it's no different. It's not designed as a storage facility. There's an interim solution of actually being able to increase its storage capacity while a disposal solution for low-level waste has been developed.
Yeah. It's a complicated issue, of course. It's something we'll continue to talk about and hopefully be more informed by. Thank you so much for being part of the program, Dr. Curry.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Jeff Curry is an Associate Professor in Medical Radiation Science at Charles Sturt University. On ABC Local Radio, we'll catch up with the Weather Bureau in just a moment.